It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Last week, we began our conversation on the current state of EdTech integration in Nigeria. We established that government and the private sector have an equal role to play in effective EdTech integration in Nigeria, and that EdTech owners as well as the consumers need to hold both sides accountable for how well EdTech is integrated in the country. This week, we will be examining the existing frameworks that will make these integrations happen. And with me this week, I have my guests from last week, Chiaka, Unegbu, and Olayinka Adeosun. You need no introductions at this point. So welcome back, and we'll dive right in. So to you, Chiaka and Olayinka, you go first. Are there existing frameworks or policies guiding EdTech integration in Nigeria? If there are, how effective have they been? Are there any benchmarks we should be looking at that could also possibly help with EdTech integration in Nigeria? I know this is a loaded question, so please, take your time to speak through this. So Chiaka, you go first.
Okay, so just to answer the first part, yes, there are existing frameworks. I think the one that comes to mind for me is the National Broadband Plan. And one of the aims of the National Broadband Plan is that by 2035, 90% of the population in Nigeria would have access to internet, which is a major issue when it comes to infrastructure. And while that is great on paper, like I would say, implementation or execution is the problem. Interestingly, as at 2023, according to the World Bank, 10% of people in the rural areas, especially in schools, do not have access to internet. And we know that internet is really important when it comes to EdTech adoption. So, yes, we do have these existing policies. Another one, even at the state level, you'd have states like Lagos State, Kaduna, having their own programs for EdTech, which is good. But you find that it is not across the states. Nigeria is not as made up of 82 states. It's made up of 36 states. So you find that these programs are fragmented and it's not uniform. So that is also causing another issue when it comes to adoption of EdTech. For us to be able to benchmark, which is the other part of your question, it will need for us to also borrow you from other neighboring countries, African countries, for instance, like Kenya, Rwanda. They sort of figured out how to solve these gaps that we pointed out. So, for instance, in Kenya, they were able to solve the issue of infrastructure because they had this public-private partnership. And I think that is something that the government in Nigeria can also try out. Then the issue of even infrastructure or cost of this equipment or devices, we can also borrow a from India as well. They were able to solve that problem because they figured out that cost of living is expensive. Nobody has money to pay for electricity or internet. So in the EdTech space in India, they were able to create low-cost EdTech solutions that rural areas or even rural schools, public schools, were able to adopt. So if we're able to benchmark what we're currently doing and borrowing need from such frameworks in this country, I believe people will be ready for it as well. Thank you.
We have several data educational policies and signaling the role of technology in learning. And one of the most notable one is the National Digital Economic Policy, which emphasized the need for digital learning and the technology-driven education. Why this policy exists on paper, it is just the implementation is weak. Many schools in underserved community still struggle to have access to basic digital facilities and tools. And the reason is there is no infrastructure, there is no funding, and there is no training for teachers. And government need to invest in this part. they need to create a very structured and enforceable EdTech framework policy so that they can bridge the digital divide among students who have access to technology and those who do not. If we want to have a good EdTech policy, we need to look at these areas. Number one is curriculum development. Our curriculum doesn't integrate the technology used in classroom, and our curriculum needs to be revised by the government. Another one is investing in teachers' training. Teacher needs to be trained on how to use data tools. Imagine a school with smart board. If a teacher is not trained, they will revert back to the traditional teaching method. So these are some of the investments that government needs to make in this policy. A well-structured and forcible actions, not just paperwork, but the one that have funding in it. And also the monitoring and evaluation part is very important for me. And this is one thing I want the government to look into.
My next question, what are the major barriers to the effective integration of technology in our education systems? And they could be policy, infrastructures, teacher capacity, etc. But I want you to take it from your own point of view. So, Olayinka, I'd want you to go first. As an educator, what have been the barriers you've experienced in your line of work that have hindered effective EdTech integration into our education systems in Nigeria?
I think the major barrier cuts across all sectors, including policy, infrastructure, teachers training. One thing I say about government is they are not monitoring. After they are making an infrastructure in school, they are not monitoring, they are not evaluating how impactful the project is. And this is very sad. And they left some rural area behind in building infrastructures. And if they can partnership is very important and key. If they can build a community hub include it in the policy, community hub in every state or in every local government, this will greatly improve the education sector, EdTech sector. Another one is collaboration with big brands like Google to make free access to 21st century skills for learners. We really need it. These are major barriers. Collaboration with them so that all students can have access to free resources online. Recently, the government introduced the Nigerian Learning Passport. But the problem I see with this is that it is not free. It is only free with one network. But students who don't have this particular network, we greatly missed out on this opportunity. So it is a platform where students both educators and teachers can learn. So government needs to implement policy that favors and it will be sustainable for the underserved communities. In terms of infrastructure, like the example I gave earlier, let's say, imagine a policy where government introduce coding to schools for every schools, like let's say primary schools, and there is no infrastructure in place. This won't work. If there is no electricity, if there is no internet, all these things will not work. And I think partnership is very important in this part also. We have telecommunication companies where government can partner with, and also government should look into solar energy, renewable energy, so that school will not suffer from unreliable electricity. These are the parts that government should look into. And another part is teachers training. Our teachers are not well trained. Some teachers are trained, while some teachers are not trained. So school administrators and stakeholders should look into making continuous development in their school as a little drop of water, a small step, giant leap. They can do this. Let's train the trainer program. And also NGOs are also contributing to this part in the EdTech system. So good training for teachers, digital literacy training, innovative teaching training, all this imagine technology training for our teachers will greatly enhance our EdTech industry.
Thank you so much, Olayinka. Chiaka?
So that's a great question as well. For me, I would say the three major ones that come to mind. I know you say I'm sounding like a broken record. Infrastructure. It is really important. I mean, electricity, without electricity, without internet, there is no point saying there's going to be an integration of EdTech in the classroom. And sadly, in recent times, we're seeing how things have skyrocketed. So infrastructure is really, really important. If the government, alongside with the private sector, like I mentioned earlier, can support in easing the load or making it accessible, not just only for the urban areas. I mean, I feel we tend to prioritize the urban areas and we're neglecting the rural areas. So if there's priority on this for the rural areas as well, I believe we'll be able to adopt EdTech in a fast way, in a speedy manner. The other one for me is also capacity. But who are the drivers of EdTech in the classroom? The teachers and the school administrators. It's great that we have EdTech organizations churning out tools, creating local content, but it's also important that these drivers, the primary drivers, are trained effectively to be able to implement it and also share it or pass it on to the student. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to enhance learning. It is, I think, personally for me, being a teacher and also working in the EdTech space, our biggest goal or mission is to ensure that there's quality education in Nigeria. And for that, we need to really train the drivers. I mean, it's great that we're training teachers, but also the owners, co-owners, the administrators need to know how impactful EdTech tools are in their classroom as well. I mean, we're talking about how amazing AI is, but sadly, we still have teachers that are not trained when it comes to leveraging AI in their classroom. So it would be nice for that capacity building. It's also great if we have infrastructure. And then, we talked about earlier about policies in place. It is like a good direction, but execution, implementation is very, very important so that at a larger scale, we're able to push EdTech across the country.
Great. Thank you. There's a lot of work we need to do to provide or put out these barriers and see how we can begin to design around them so that we don't have a case of just having the solutions, then all these barriers and bottlenecks exists at the long run. So thank you so much, Chiaka and Olayinka, for your responses. So my final questions to you today, with all that has been said, what lessons can Nigeria learn from other countries that have successfully standardized EdTech integration for their education systems? Olayinka, love to hear from you.
As for me, I'm going with two countries, and the reason is I'm a space educator, and I know the importance of project-based learning, hands-on learning, that spark curiosity in students, and that's the reason why I'm picking these two countries. And the two countries are Finland and the United States. They have good educational technology, and they also support hands-on, and that's the reason why I'm picking this country. So for Finland is known as with the best educational system, and they are not just introducing technology to their teachers, they are training their teachers before introducing any tools into the classroom. So one priority that I would say is that Nigerian government should invest in teachers training before introducing any new technology. Finland will train their teachers on it before introducing it to the classroom. Not just give them tools, train them first, and then before introducing it to the classroom. Government have done different initiatives whereby they give tablets to teachers, but they are not training teachers on it. They are just giving them. I know of a colleague that gave the tablet given to her youngest child because she wasn't trained. She doesn't know how to use it. So these are some of the investments Nigeria should do on teachers training. Invest great. Another part is Finland use inquiry-based learning. Our curriculum needs to be revised. We should stop memorizing stuff. We need inquiry-based learning that spark curious answers from our students. So these are the kind of learning that we should revise our curriculum. We should do project-based approach, hands-on learning. These are approach that solve real world problem. The second one is the United States of America. And the reason why I pick United States is because I'm into a space program. And if you look at it, United States is the leading space explorer. They are going back to the moon in this year, and from moon they are going to Mars. All these technologies they are using started from their educational system, and they introduced hands-on learning to their students. And what they do is through partnership. They partner with NASA to introduce different approach. So all these things, that all the technology they are using in the classroom, all the technology they are using at NASA, they are also integrating it into their educational system through partnership. They will ask students to design a colony on Mars. They will ask students to build robots, reusable robots. So these are technologies that spark curiosity for students, even they will know the next challenge for them to do. So I would say Nigerians should collaborate and partner with Nigerian Space Agency to develop a good curriculum that will help our students to take that small step, giant leap into future EdTech technology.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insightful response. And Chika?
So Nigeria can learn a valuable lesson from our neighboring country, Rwanda. They had this smart classroom initiative where the federal government ensured that ICT was integrated in their teacher training program. And as a result of that, because they made it mandatory and ensured that all of the teachers were well trained, it was easier for the public school teachers to teach and also adopt technology in the public space, which is a problem that we're currently facing in Nigeria. Remember earlier you asked that compared to the private and public school, are we adopting EdTech on which level, on which pace? So if we are able to borrow that leave and ensure that ICT is mandatory, it's not just ICT teachers, computer science teachers, ensuring that regardless of whatever subject you are teaching, you must be well trained, you must be a digital literate, in quote. That would also solve that problem as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chiaka and Olayinka, for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us today. It's been an absolute delight having you on our show, and I hope you have had fun thinking through EdTech integration in Nigeria. And to you, our listeners, what are your thoughts on the conversation this week and even last week? Is Nigeria doing enough to effectively integrate EdTech into our education systems? Are Nigerians making the right demands on the government or even the innovators when it comes to integrating technology into our education systems? I'd love to hear from you. Are you a parent? What demands do you make to the schools that your children attend when you want to enroll them in new schools? If you're a student at different levels, what demands are you making on your learning systems around the integration of technology for learning or for teaching? I'd love to hear from you. Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. You could also join our very vibrant community on Telegram and WhatsApp. Just search for EdTech Mondays Nigeria to continue the conversation after now. And if you know anyone who has missed out on this very interesting topic this week, or would want to go back to previous episodes of this show from this year and even last year, look no further. Search for EdTech Mondays Nigeria on Spotify or CC Hub Africa on YouTube to rewatch the previous episodes. Until I come your way, same time, same station, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Continue using technology to push the boundaries of education. It's bye for now.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.